The problem is Tosin.
Tosin, you mug. Absolute mug.
Every football club has one player the fans fight about more than the results themselves. At Chelsea, that player is Tosin Adarabioyo. Some supporters call him calm, composed, underrated. Others call him a disaster waiting to happen.
Whenever Tosin is on the pitch, there is problems. Whenever he's on the pitch, there is bozo moments.
But over the past few weeks, something strange has happened. Every mistake went viral. Every appearance sparked an argument. Every goal Chelsea conceded felt like it came with a name attached. Not the manager, not the goalkeeper, not the midfield, just one defender. Because sometimes it only takes a moment for the internet to find its villain. Tosin came on and we conceded 5 minutes after. Tosin is the most useless defender I have ever seen in my life. This bro is just not good at all. You foul players still can't block the ball when you see him trying to smart you. But somehow it's still Tosin they blame. The pattern becomes predictable. A single substitution, a single foul, a single touch under pressure. And suddenly the conversation isn't about the system, the press, or the structure. It's about one man, whether he deserved it or not. Whether the mistake was his or not, Tosin became the headline. Some swear he's the problem, some swear he's the victim, and the numbers tell a story far more complicated than either side wants to admit. Because this is not just about a mistake at Ellen Road, and it's not just about angry tweets after full time. This is about a player whose reputation flipped overnight, a defender caught between a system that exposes him, a fan base that doesn't trust him, and a question that refuses to go away. Is Tosin really as bad as they say, or is the world blaming the wrong man? Before we analyze mistakes, tactics, or systems, we need to understand how Tosin ended up at the center of a conversation that feels bigger than the player himself. Because in modern football, reputations are rarely created on the pitch alone. They are shaped by expectations, timing, perception, and the strange emotional ecosystem that surrounds a club like Chelsea. Tosin arrived quietly, a free transfer from Fulham. No extravagant unveiling, no blockbuster fee, no pressure to transform the backline on his own. He was supposed to be depth, a rotation option, a safe, reliable, technically comfortable defender who could help Chelsea build from the back in Enzo Maresca's structure. For most clubs, that would have been the end of the story, but Chelsea are not most clubs. The moment he walked into Cobham, he stepped into a defense already under scrutiny. Chelsea had conceded 63 goals the season before, the 5th worst defensive record in the league. That kind of instability creates paranoia. Every new defender becomes a potential solution or a potential liability, and when the season began, the defense didn't just need improvement, it needed a savior. Wesley Fofana's return from injury gave fans hope. His pace, aggression, and recovery defending instantly stood out. Chelsea's defensive numbers improved with him on the pitch, especially high up the field. Opponents created fewer big chances. The team felt more secure against transitions. With Fofana starting, Chelsea conceded 0.9 goals per match across the first quarter of the campaign. Without him, the number rose above 1.4. Fans didn't need spreadsheets to see the difference. They felt it. So when Fofana wasn't available, or Maresca rotated his back line, the comparison became unavoidable. The team looked less aggressive, less mobile, less confident in space. It wasn't all Tosin's fault, but he became the symbol of the drop-off. That's how the debate started. Long before the errors, long before the headlines, long before the fan arguments online, and the game itself added fuel. Tosin is a very specific profile of defender. At 1.96 meters, he dominates the air. He wins more than 65% of his aerial duels, comfortably in the upper bracket for Premier League center backs. His passing is clean and intentional. Across last season, he averaged over 60 passes per match with a completion rate above 90%, a key requirement in Maresca's positional structure. His long diagonal passes, especially to the fullbacks, were a major part of Chelsea's build-up patterns. But the Premier League is ruthless about exposing your weaknesses, and Tosin's weaknesses are not subtle. He is not explosive over short distances. His acceleration numbers place him in the lower tier of Premier League central defenders. He doesn't recover quickly when the press is broken, and unlike Fofana, who wins most of his duels by initiating contact early, Tosin is far less effective when he is the one reacting, so the myth formed. Not overnight, but slowly, through moments that accumulated beneath the surface. A safe defender when the structure is stable, a vulnerable defender when the game becomes chaotic, a composed passer when supported, a hesitant duelist when isolated. The numbers made the debate louder. In matches where Chelsea dominated possession, Tosin often posted some of the highest passing involvement of any defender in the squad. But in matches where Chelsea were pressed aggressively, his miscontrol rate rose above 15%, higher than the league average for center backs. Fans noticed the contrast, even if they didn't put numbers to it, and then the performances compounded the tension. Solid spells mixed with visible lapses, clean sheets followed by costly moments, calm interventions overshadowed by clips that spread faster than context ever could. That is why the conversation around Tosin feels so emotionally charged. It isn't about who he is alone, it's about what Chelsea need him to be, and what fans believe a Chelsea defender should be. Before the errors in December, before the arguments, the blame, the scapegoating, Tosin had already become a player people disagreed about, a player whose strengths and limitations divide opinion more clearly than almost anyone else in the squad. And that is the environment in which the collapse of reputation began. A defense already under pressure, a fan base desperate for solidity, and a player whose game offers both reassurance and doubt depending entirely on the state of the match. On the 3rd of December 2025, Chelsea went to Ellen Road on a 7-game unbeaten run, sitting 4th in the table and 9 points off Arsenal. By the end of the night, the scoreline was harsh but clear. Leeds United 3-1 Chelsea, and Tosin Adarabioyo walked off as the face of the defeat. Chelsea arrived on a 7-match unbeaten run. Leeds arrived with one plan: destroy the first phase of Maresca's build-up and suffocate the spaces where Chelsea normally breathe. And within 6 minutes, the warning signs became a deficit. Anton Stack whipped in a near-post corner. Jaka Bajol rose through the crowd, and his header flew past Robert Sanchez's glove. One set piece, one clean contact, one goal. The kind of moment that instantly changes the psychology of the match. Chelsea, a team built on control, were forced into chase mode before they had even established rhythm. The flow of the game became strange after that. Chelsea had the ball, 71% possession by full time, but Leeds owned the danger. They pressed high in bursts, then dropped into a compact block, then exploded forward whenever they sensed hesitation. Chelsea took 14 shots, Leeds took 17, but Leeds hit the target 5 times. Chelsea managed just 2, and every time Leeds attacked, the chances felt sharper. The second goal arrived just before halftime, and it was everything Leeds had been building towards. Chelsea tried to force play through the middle, lost the ball under pressure, and the sequence collapsed instantly. Lucas Namika recovered possession, the ball rolled into the path of Altanaka, and from 25 yards, he rifled a low skidding shot into the bottom corner. By the break, Leeds led 2-0 and had produced an XG total that reflected the danger. The night would end at 2.82 XG for Leeds against 1.11 for Chelsea, a fair summary of their superiority. Maresca reacted immediately. At halftime, he sent on Pedro Neto and Malo Gusto. The energy shifted, the attack sharpened, and within 5 minutes, Chelsea were back in it. Jamie Gittins isolated his man on the left, drove to the byline, and whipped a cross across the face of goal. Neto arrived unmarked at the far post to make it 2-1 and dragged Chelsea back into a contest that had threatened to get away from them. For a brief stretch, Chelsea controlled the ball with conviction. Leeds threatened in transition, and Namika even had a goal ruled out for offside, but Chelsea were finally pushing with purpose. The equalizer felt possible. Then came the moment that changed the night, and for Tosin, the narrative. It happened in the 72nd minute. Chelsea recycled possession deep in their half, looking to reset the rhythm. The ball came toward Tosin. Leeds pushed 4 players high to block passing lanes. The safest option appeared to be the reset, involve Sanchez, start again, rebuild the shape, but the back pass never reached its target. Whether you read ESPN, Vavel, or any other outlet, the description is consistent. Tosin underhit the pass. Noah Okafor reacted first. The loose ball spilled to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who rolled it into the open net, 3-1. Game over. No tactic explains that moment. No structure hides it. It was a mistake. A simple, clear, costly mistake. And yet when you stand back from the clip that circulated online, the wider picture becomes clear. Leeds had created more chances, more shots, and more danger before that error. They scored from a set piece. They scored from a turnover in midfield. Their disallowed goal showed how fragile Chelsea's defensive line had been all night. And their XG advantage, 2.82 to 1.11, proves the result wasn't built on a single decision. But football doesn't always care about context. Bajol's header didn't trend. Tanaka's strike didn't trend. Nemeka's disallowed goal didn't trend. Tosin's back pass did. A 7-match unbeaten run vanished in a single moment. Chelsea's comeback faded in a single touch. And a defender who had built a reputation on composure suddenly found himself defined by a lapse that felt anything but composed. Leeds didn't expose Tosin alone. They exposed Chelsea's stability, their resistance, their ability to cope under pressure. Tosin just supplied the moment that captured it all in one frame, the one the internet turned into the story of the night. And after the 3rd of December, the debate around him was no longer tactical or theoretical. It was emotional. It was polarizing. It was everywhere. This match didn't create the narrative surrounding Tosin. It simply attached a face to a night where Chelsea were second best in every decisive moment. Some defeats sting because of the scoreline. This one stung because of the timing and what it meant. The 9th of December 2025, Chelsea traveled to Bergamo for a Champions League match that carried real consequences. Win, and they stayed alive in the group. Draw, and they kept control of their route into the top 8. Lose, and qualification slipped out of their hands. The margins were thin before kickoff. They were even thinner by full time. Chelsea actually began like a team in command. The first half belonged to them. Calmer on the ball, cleaner in possession, smarter in the wide areas, and their composure was rewarded midway through the opening 45 minutes. Reece James, drifting high on the right, delivered a driven cross into the near post corridor where João Pedro attacked it with perfect timing. His finish made it 1-0 Chelsea, and for the first time in weeks, the away end saw a team that looked structurally confident. But football matches stretch, they bend, they test the edges of a team, and early in the second half, Chelsea's edges tore. Atalanta didn't flip the momentum with a moment of brilliance. They flipped it by turning the game into exactly what Chelsea dislike, a match with transitions, second balls, and midfield duels that break the rhythm of possession football. By the hour mark, Atalanta were pressing higher, forcing Chelsea deeper, and dragging the match away from the controlled positional patterns Maresca prefers. The equalizer encapsulated that shift. Around the 55th minute, the ball was worked wide, the cross came in from the right, and Gianluca Scamacca, always a threat in those zones, rose above his marker. His header was clean, downward, and precise. Sanchez had no chance. 1-1, and suddenly the entire dynamic of the match changed. And it wasn't just the scoreline. After the goal, Chelsea's structure loosened. Their passing became slower. Their spacing became stretched. The midfield lost its feet for the first time all night. This is where the collective tension that had been building around Chelsea's defense began to show. Every clearance felt rushed. Every duel felt reactive. Every second ball felt like it belonged to Atalanta. The game entered a phase that Chelsea have struggled with all season. The spell after conceding, when the team need composure but instead become frantic. The decisive moment arrived in the 83rd minute. Atalanta pushed forward in numbers, worked the ball into the half space, and Charles de Ketelaere cut inside onto his stronger foot. His shot wasn't spectacular, but it didn't need to be. It took a deflection, wrong-footed Sanchez, and dropped into the net. 2-1 Atalanta. From a purely tactical standpoint, it was a preventable sequence. Too much room on the edge of the box, no one stepping out to block the shooting lane, and a line that retreated instead of confronting the danger. For Chelsea, it was a knife through their European hopes. For the defenders, it was another moment where organization crumbled at the worst time. And for Tosin, even though the match reports did not assign fault to him specifically, the atmosphere around his recent performances meant every goal Chelsea conceded during this period added oxygen to an already burning narrative. When Maresca appeared after the match, his words said everything. We conceded easy goals. We lost the structure after the equalizer. He wasn't pointing fingers at individuals, but the implication was clear. Chelsea weren't defending as a unit. Once the game flipped emotionally, the team couldn't stabilize. Statistically, the match reflected the story on the pitch. Atalanta generated the better chances, created more danger after the hour mark, and forced Chelsea into a reactive posture they couldn't escape. A deflected winner wasn't a masterpiece, but it was earned through pressure, territory, and momentum. For a defender, any defender, these are the matches that shape perception. Matches where the structure doesn't protect you. Matches where every duel feels exposed. Matches where the margins are so thin that a deflection becomes a verdict. Atalanta didn't dominate Chelsea, but they disrupted them. And against this Chelsea side, disruption is often enough. The loss didn't just hurt the club's Champions League hopes, it tightened the spotlight on the back line. It intensified the scrutiny on every defensive decision, and it arrived just 6 days after the Leeds mistake. With emotions already raw and patience already thin, Leeds lit the fire. Bergamo made the flames unavoidable. Tosin Adarabioyo's story at Chelsea isn't a simple one. It isn't the tale of a great defender unfairly maligned, nor the collapse of a player exposed at the highest level. It lives somewhere in between, in the gray areas football rarely allows room for. He has strengths that matter: aerial dominance, composure on the ball, a calm presence in a team that often loses control too easily. And he has weaknesses that matter just as much: acceleration, reactive defending, decision-making under pressure, the emotional weight of mistakes. And none of those truths exist in isolation. They live inside a system that asks its defenders to do everything at full risk, inside a fan base desperate for stability, and inside a league that punishes hesitation more ruthlessly than anywhere else in the world. So is Tosin bad? No, that was never the right question. The real question is whether Chelsea's demands amplify his flaws faster than his strengths can show themselves, and whether a player built for structure can truly thrive in a team built on courage, exposure, and fine margins. For now, the debate continues. Some see a defender unfairly blamed. Others see one whose weaknesses appear in the wrong moments. Both sides carry pieces of the truth. What remains is a player navigating the most unforgiving stretch of his career inside a spotlight brighter than anything he faced before. This is Tosin Adarabioyo's reality, not disaster, not redemption, but a defender fighting to prove himself in a team that leaves no hiding places. And as Chelsea's season unfolds, one thing is certain: the conversation about him is far from finished.